And if we have to
Just
move,
sent her a text too, so.
okay, okay.
Well, I think she's away, so I'm not sure. I just text her too.
Okay.
All right, we are live.
You're alive.
Okay. Did
She
Laura-
just replied. She's logging on now.
Okay.
But she's having trouble with the link.
Is that Erica or Lori you're talking about?
Yes, yes, Erica.
Erica. I don't see that Lori joined in.
Hey, Anthony,
Yes, sir.
can you resend the link to Erica Kip?
Hold on 1 second.
And she's a panelist.
Gotcha. All right, link has been resent.
And it looks like she's connecting right now. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
And I think we can start now that Erica's.
Doesn't look like she has audio.
Nothing?
She's gonna disconnect and try to get back in.
Yeah, Lori's trying to join too. She just texted me.
I believe Lori is in, but she's in as an attendee.
As an attendee, yeah.
Yes.
She's trying the link now.
How you doing, Darlene?
I'm good. Getting ready to go to Aruba in 3 weeks.
Oh, come on.
Wow, wow.
They're gonna
I'll
let you
send you a
back in?
picture, Rich.
You're gonna let you back in after that?
Yeah.
They did.
They say they will. That's just a ruse to get you out of the country. Come on.
You know, I said,
I wouldn't mind being stuck in
Yeah,
Aruba.
get stuck in Aruba, yeah. That's tough.
hey,
Hey, Erica.
There's her.
we lost her.
Lost her.
She's just gotta unmute and she should be all set.
Unmute.
I scheduled an appointment today, a medical appointment. And one of the questions they asked me is if I had left Connecticut in the last 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah, what'd you say?
Your answer is no.
Well, my answer is no, but I think that's an interesting question.
I figured it out.
There we go.
Hi. Sorry.
Okay, Anthony, I think we're all set.
My phone was Bluetooth to a speaker. So the whole time I couldn't hear anything. It was on a speaker. Don't ask.
Coming out in the home theater.
Okay, we'll start. I think Lori's trying to join in.
She's in, but she just can't get in where she can talk at this point. She has to be admitted later.
But you can hear.
Correct.
Yes. All right, Anthony, we're all set.
All right. You guys can start whenever you want.
Okay, we'll call the meeting in order. Next item up is for public input. Guests and committee meetings can speak now, so let Lori be unmuted.
All right. Let me take care of it right now.
She texts me that she has something to say.
Hi,
She is on
can you hear me now?
I heard
Can you
you.
hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hi, how are you guys?
Good, Lori, how are you?
Good. I just wanted to let you know that I'm dropping off from being liaison for Village Creek, but I would like to continue being liaison from the Norwalk River Watershed Association. As I've been on that board for a few months and it's getting to be a lot of work. And so, but of course there'll be lots of, connections between the NRWA and the tree advisory, of course. So, but I also asked around, and there are probably a couple people who are interested in, replacing me.
Could you put whoever they are in touch with us so we can get them to the loop?
Yeah. Yep. I think Judd Alley is interested. He's one person.
Oh, okay.
You know him, right, Paul? And some of you.
Yeah, we know Judd, definitely.
Yeah. So he expressed an interest,
So
and
he's in Village Creek or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know he's on the parking authority. I know he's on the bike walk commission.
well, I mean, as just liaison, I guess he's interested. So it's just it's getting to be too much, too many meetings and too much time. But I'm still like working a lot on the park, and we're working on some grants. And if we get those grants for trees, we'll definitely like coordinate with you, kind of situation.
Great. Well, we look forward to hearing from Judd, and whole work with Woodward Park, or you'll handle that?
I doubt he would be interested in doing that, but yeah, no, I'm continuing to work on Woodward Park. Definitely.
Okay.
And probably along Woodward Avenue if we get grants and such. So sort of in a similar capacity. I just, it's just getting to be too much work. And I'm also not on good terms with our president of our Village Creek Homeowners Association. And he's done a lot of sort of things that have been demeaning and just not environmentally friendly. And I don't really want to be representing Village Creek anymore, frankly.
Fair reason.
We'll hear from Judd hopefully soon, and then we can bring him up
Sure.
with the tree advisory committee.
I can give him the booklet and walk around the neighborhood with him and all that.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely meet with him and
Bring him up to speed with what we have already done, so he has some background.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how much he wants to do outside of Village Creek, I kind of stepped a little bit further out of our just immediate community, but at our entry, but you're still going to be hearing from me a lot.
Okay, sounds
I hope
good.
that's okay.
We're good with that. Thank you for all your time and effort that you have put in.
Thank you. And I just sent you guys a picture of a tree that was damaged on Longshore Avenue in a car accident the other day.
I just saw that.
Yeah, so.
Did you send it to customer service?
I sent it to you, no, I haven't
You
sent
gotta
it.
make sure you gotta make sure you send it to customer service so that they can document it and track
Okay.
it.
Okay. Mm.
That looks like substantial enough damage that I gotta imagine there's a police report.
Yeah, I think so.
The
I heard the
vehicle's
sirens.
owner's insurance should cover freight, but we need that information.
Okay.
Were there any other speakers, Delene?
There is
Nope,
one.
I didn't have any.
Any
Do you have
board,
anything, Jeff?
anything on open?
There is one other public attendee, Cindy C. I don't know if you guys want me to unmute.
Member,
Oh, she's a
She's a
member.
she should be in. She's a member of the committee here.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
She's
So,
actually a panelist.
okay.
Hey,
So,
Guyleen?
Yes.
Darlene,
Yes.
the public comment are not going to be on, isn't posted publicly, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Well, I'd be a little concerned. Lori said some things about the president and, you know.
Can
Yeah.
you let that go?
some
I didn't
Negative
realize.
things. I really don't think that's appropriate for public comments on record.
Well, it's already on YouTube, so it's not really going to matter.
Okay, but Lori, just in the future, whatever you're saying in public comments is made public.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I
but,
understand. I
yeah,
thought you did.
I don't think anybody would be around here would be upset about what I said. But
I would if I was president.
no, I mean, I'm not the only one who's.
Okay.
Anyhow, above and beyond that, I'm just really busy. So sorry about that.
It's okay. Did Cindy join in?
Hey,
You're right there. Hey, Cindy.
Hey, there you are. You're in.
Hello.
And you're unmuted. Good.
I used the information I got in the email. I don't know what happened.
You're not the only one.
I'm here.
Thank you for being here. We just did public comment. We're gonna, next item, we're gonna do approve the minutes from the August meeting. Everybody have a chance to look over the minutes, and if so, are there any modifications that we should know about?
I'm okay.
They were really good.
I thought they were great.
I move to approve.
I
Second.
second the movement. All those in
Third.
favor? Minutes approved as posted. And next, item number 4, I'd like to formally make the nomination for Erica as the chairperson for the Tree Advisory Committee. We did that last time, but we didn't put it to a committee vote. So I'd like to make this formal now and have Erica step in as being our new Tree Advisory poobah.
Do I
There's a
have to not
Quebec.
be here when voting
Quebec.
happens? Or?
Poobet, I'm sorry.
Who best?
So if we're all in favor of that,
Hi.
aye,
Aye.
opposed? I'd say motion approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Erica, very much. I'm looking forward
Thank
to
you,
you
guys.
taking the Tree Advisory Committee to the next level.
I'd like to propose the nomination of Rich Whitehead to be vice chair.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, I think he's well qualified.
You think?
If we
Do
put
the
that
vote.
to a vote, do we all agree?
If Rich agrees,
Aye.
Rich, do you agree?
done.
Aye.
Hi.
That was a stipulation with Erica taking over the chairperson, by the way.
Hey, I have a question.
That can go on public record.
Is this
Now
in
it's too late for me
perpetuity?
to turn back.
Are these in perpetuity? Is there a time term?
Apparently not, from what I'm finding.
Yeah, exactly. You were
It's 19
perpetuity.
years.
Yeah. So apparently there is no time frame.
So like the Supreme Court for life.
Pretty much.
Welcome,
Yeah.
Erica. You're the third chairperson.
Yeah.
It's,
Don
it's
Nelson.
19 years.
Don Nelson, Rich, and then now you.
Bader. Yeah.
Wow.
Congratulations, Erica.
Thank you, Erica. Congratulations as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item, number 6 is incidents of illegal cutting.
There's no new ones that have been brought to my attention. Just the update on the last 2. Chris is still working with the people from Avalon over on Belden Avenue, and up on Bel Air. They were supposed to come in and talk with Chris to have like a social distancing meeting of some sort, and they never got back to Chris, so he's turned it over to the law office.
That works.
So they're being followed up now with the law office, and once they decide how they're going to handle it in terms of either fines or legal action, which they can do both, either one or both at this point, then they'll get back to us and provide us with an update so that we can update the committee.
Was the contractor contacted with regards to that incident as well?
The law office is going to do both. We are going to have a letter come from both, to both from the law office. So Lato will get a letter, and the property owner will be getting a letter.
And Chris also sent Lato a letter too, Paul, just so you know.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, we did.
So no response from either as of yet.
Nope.
Great. Okay.
So I did send you a photo of the trees being trimmed in front of, I think it's the Pantheas Phyllis offices here on Belden, but I think they're probably private.
Yes, they are private trees. I looked at them. There's nothing in basically the city ordinances that we can do. They're private trees. We have no jurisdiction over them at all.
So also over the weekend, it might have been the weekend last, they sheared the trees over on Silvermine Way, I think it is. That little private development off Silvermine Avenue. I don't know if that street's private. I think it was the homeowner that they've done it before. So I don't know if that street's a private street, and
I don't think it is. I believe it's a city street. We'll have to look though to see if the trees, once again, are city or private. Because if they're in the right of way, then we have jurisdiction. But if they're on private property, like over at the Pamphless' law office, we have no jurisdiction at all.
Right. So these I'm pretty sure are out. They're out by the curb, but they might be in the median. This is probably not the first year they've done it, but they did a significant cutback on those.
All right.
They're
So it's just
Bradford,
pruning.
they're Bradford pears. You know.
Well, we could have Eric look at that tomorrow because that's a city street.
Yeah, I mean, even though they're Bradfords, it's a city tree. And I know that I did not see truck. I didn't see any named contractor out there. I just saw, several guys with pruning equipment.
Okay.
We'll move on to the next one then. Update for tree planting program. Planting locations for spring 2020.
This is a follow-up because some of them were leftovers from spring and now the new ones are fall. So Woodward is a fall.
Great.
It's fall, correct.
Those are already staked, right, Rich? They're staked.
Those trees, Paul and I went out to Woodward. Well, let me go back a little further. Lori, Mira, and I met with the facility manager at 151 Woodward, and the owner, or one of the owners, I believe there's 5 owners. There's a group that owns that property and several other properties. Joined us via cell phone with the facility manager. And we tried to explain, what we wanted to accomplish along the frontage of that property. Lori's kind of had that on her radar for a while. It's a pretty expansive frontage on that property, pretty barren of trees. And then Eversource just came in and removed 3 decayed black locust trees. So now it's even more barren. So I told them that we'd like to start planting the frontage of that property along the roadway like we did Woodward Park. He asked what it would look like. I told him it would look very similar to the frontage of Woodward Park that you designed, Peter. The spacing on that property is 5 feet further apart on center from what we did in Woodward Park because it's a much further expanse. There's utilities underground. There's 2 existing trees that we're spacing around between the sewer lines and the existing trees, basically taking into account the amount of linear footage there is in the front.
Did you stagger those as well?
The one owner that was on the phone at the time of the meeting wasn't really interested per se. So we went back and staked the locations. Paul and I, after Lori and I met with the facility manager and marked the locations for 6 new trees at the southern border of 151, which would be the area closest to Woodward Park, where we would like to install 6 trees. Originally it was 5, 5 didn't work, so it's 6 now, as part of the fall planting. They're going to get back to us after they review the stakes, which have now been in for over 3 weeks. They are asking for other utility plans for what sewer lines are underground. But I'm getting the impression, I'm hoping I'm wrong, that they're just not really interested in having trees on their property. So I told them that the tree advisory committee in the city of Norwalk would install the 6 trees at all our expense to begin with, just like we would anything else, but it would require a tree ownership agreement form before we can plant with our contractor. And if they like it, after they get a chance to look at that, we'd like to continue the remainder of the frontage at similar spacing on center, and that we would partner with the property owners, because there's more than one, on a 50-50 basis, because there'll probably be another 25 or 30 trees to go in there. So we would sponsor half of that and they would sponsor half of that. But they have yet to even get back to us on the initial first 6 trees that would be completely free to them, minus them signing the agreement.
So Paul did give me the aerial this week to do the plan piece for that, for you, Rich. However, I cannot find the original Woodward Avenue Park plan in my files. You may have gotten.
You need the original Woodward Avenue Park plan because this is kind of an extension to that.
Yes, and it's better if I show existing, the progression the city's made with investment. But the issue for me is reconstructing that is sort of, lost time entirely. But
let me see if I can find it, and with a PDF at least for you, and I'll see what we've got, and I'll try and resend it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a PDF because I don't really remember all that was on it. It's a lot of work to recreate. It's not on the windscreen for at least a couple of weeks here.
It's probably under the America the Beautiful grant because that's what it was sent under originally.
I found this piece, as I showed earlier, where we did all of Woodward Avenue.
All right.
And that, but I'll look again, but I Googled, I searched for Woodward, I found nothing. I'll look under.
Well, we did the plan when we were applying for the grant that we lost to Westcog. So.
But I had a computer crash in 2018, so that may have been a casualty.
Oh, then maybe Paul can retrieve it for you.
Even a PDF.
The America the Beautiful grant, because that's where it was.
Which species of trees are going in?
Well, right now, none. But
Well,
they
if
agree
it's
to it,
agreed
we're going
upon.
to do, the trees are staked and labeled as honey locust and sycamore. So those go in if they follow up at all, but we're not getting very
Think
much.
positive. Think positive.
Not much interest yet, but I'm
Do you
still,
want me to send another email to them or not? I was inclined.
absolutely. I mean, the stakes have been in for 3 weeks. If you want to send another email and you think they'll be more receptive to that, absolutely.
Because he originally signed a ownership agreement, but he had just, yeah, he had signed one as long as he didn't have to be responsible for watering them. So he actually has.
Who has that agreement?
Who is he?
Mr. Enton, he's one of the owners of the property.
Do you have that agreement, Lori?
Yeah, I sent it to him. And I'll have to go back and check. I mean, I had sent it to him quite a long time ago. Because he was interested and he got kind of perturbed when we asked him to participate, because I had told him these were going to be trees that the city was going to be planting. And he said, I don't have to, pay anything, right? And I said, yeah, you don't have to. And he said, do I have to water them? And I said, no. So he was not very friendly about the idea of participating in terms of paying for any trees from the beginning.
Did he sign that agreement and send it back to you?
I think he did, yeah. But I'm not sure if he held on to it until I think he held on to it until he was going to meet with us. But then that day he never showed up and sent his assistant, right? His manager.
Well, we
I
don't
don't have
place
anything
an
in the
order
file
with
for that.
Olmsted unless we have that agreement on file.
So I'll contact him again and see, but he had questions about all those utilities and the underlying the lines and everything. Were you able to get back to him about that? I was just wondering, because I
Yeah,
don't
Paul
have.
and I went out there with the maps and identified the utilities and staked the trees so they wouldn't be over any existing utilities. And I made it
Okay.
aware that the stakes are in the ground after reviewing the location of the utilities, and please review the stakes. But I have not heard back.
Okay, so maybe I'll take a picture and I'll follow up and send him another email and saying that you did all those things, and perhaps he doesn't.
Point of order, Rich. I don't think this is still the public comment part of our meeting.
It isn't. Anthony, we gotta end up just having the panelists speak. Could you mute anybody from the public, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item.
Well, I just want to go back a minute. Rich, if you're handling 151, maybe it still needs to be handled by you. And Lori can assist.
Yeah, that was kind of a handoff to some degree, but that's fine.
Just think about the protocol. I mean, Lori's fine, but just think about the proper channels if we want to press them.
Yeah, I think Lori started it and then I got involved and then I needed Paul's assistance. So we've done plenty of work to try to get the trees in.
It's fine. Just decide what the right protocol is for you and Lori to manage it.
But right now, I do not have an ownership agreement in the file at all. So if we plant these and they cut them down, we have nothing to go back at them. So we need to get that in the file too.
Yeah, and we can't send a contractor onto private property without that agreement.
Exactly.
So we really can't have Olmsted go onto their property and start working without some sign off.
So right now, those 6 trees are staked. We're ready to place the order once we get that. If we get that, we're ready to go. If we don't, then we'll have to move on, like you were saying, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, if they're interested, we're ready. If they're not interested, I mean, we put a ton of time into it already.
We've tried.
They got to show some interest. Okay, so next, Belgium Avenue and West Avenue.
Okay, Belden Avenue is when we started in the spring and did a portion of them. Gary didn't plant all of them because of the heat. And basically, I talked with him today, and he's going to start getting the trees to go back and finish the work there. He asked me about a couple of the species because I think he said he had some trouble getting the lindens. If it's something that we've got to swap them out, we will. But right now, I've asked him to begin looking again to get quality trees to start planting and complete what was started in the spring.
I thought they were oaks, Paul.
I'd have to look.
Eldon were oaks.
But that's another thing is if they are oaks, the fall dig would make an issue too.
If they're not already dug, it could be an issue. I think pins are the only ones that he could dig in the fall, correct, Rich?
Yeah, correct.
So can we tolerate pins?
Yeah, I thought we had pins going in there.
I think we've switched
we did too.
We can use pins, it's fine.
Yeah,
All right, I'll make up the difference, but I'd asked him to start this morning to get whatever he needs to complete that work so that we can finish that and then get any of the remaining masonry work done around the tree pits too.
The only reason I hesitate on Linden's Paul is because we took several out that were not growing well in that location. I don't know.
Okay.
That's why I hesitated. There were several that just were not happy. They were stagnant for a decade.
Okay.
I would
And
prefer,
but that's the same thing is with Monroe Street too. Now that it's cooling off, there was 2 pin oaks to go into in front of the police station, so those will be taken care of also.
Okay.
Great.
So next is the winner of the lottery, East Norwalk, 12 trees. Good job, Andrew.
Actually, there's 13.
Actually, guess what? Since we talked, Andrew, there's another one. I got a phone call about the lady out at Calf Pasture Beach Road.
Yeah.
And she was also looking to meet tomorrow and at 34 Calf Pasture Beach, and she wanted to also. So we may be up to 14 potentially. And this would be 9 of the 14.
Good.
Yeah, great. Is that the house that lost the cherry tree in the storm?
Yes.
Yep.
Boy, you're good.
I know the town.
So that area there, with all of the different streets involved that Andrew had as a potential of 14, we're still making contact with some of the property owners, and we're going to finish staking those. But right now, I have confirmed orders and stakes in the ground for 9 of the 14.
Fantastic.
Hey, Paul.
Yep.
To get I don't have signed authorizations or what you call tree agreements.
Yes.
And during this age of pandemic, I'm wondering whether we should, and I'm happy to do it, is send them the forms with a self-addressed envelope back to the city, to you.
That's fine.
Could you do that? Could you do that? Could you do that?
Yeah, we've got, if you have any contact with them, the emails, otherwise I'll have to have somebody here in the office make contact with the phone calls, get their emails, and then email it to them.
Oh, you want to email it or just mail it? We have their addresses. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we could do that too. I can have them mailed. I'll have them mailed tomorrow.
Have them mailed out, then we get hard copy back, and then you have it for your file. It's a little more, I don't know.
Yeah, we can take care of that. We'll do it.
Some people
Depends
have
on their age, Andrew. It depends on their age. I mean, my kids would never consider doing a hard copy.
Cut it out.
You mean young people don't mail anything? Is that what you're saying?
Young people don't buy stamps, Andrew.
That's why I say we'll send self-addressed stamped envelopes.
If we have an email, we can send it electronically and keep a copy.
We'll make it work. We'll take care of it.
We have both their mail addresses and the emails.
That's good.
And
Perfect.
that should be on my list that I provided you, Paul.
Moving over to the other side of town, we're going to move to West Norwalk.
Cindy.
You're up, Cindy.
Not sure if it was technically west, but Paul and I went out and spoke with and left flyers and or to about 13 homes. We got 2 or 3 people that they did not want to have anything to do with it because of the solar panels. I think that street is heavily solar paneled.
Yes.
And we have 2 One I'm waiting to get an agreement on. I emailed him. No, her. I need to go to their house. The other people, I checked in with them by text, and they haven't gotten back to me. I did send them the volunteer manual so they could look at the trees. They did express interest when we said we could move the trees that they had just planted, that they could move them and we would plant some in place of those.
Yeah.
But as of this time, he hasn't gotten back to me yet after I checked in with him.
Okay. What I'm looking
No
to
one
do
else
is
called me.
trying to place the orders probably within the next week or two. So whatever we could get would be helpful for that.
I'll make some calls.
Yeah.
See if I can get
Okay.
some.
Box
But I
ticket.
wasn't very successful so far.
Yeah, you had a whole group of them that you worked on, and we walked that whole area. So she must have knocked on about 20, 25 doors at least.
We're a good team.
Give up the fight. Okay, then Highland Avenue.
Okay, Highland Avenue. Somebody we know from the past, Mr. Frazier, has back in town from Seattle.
Sherwood Forest.
And actually, I told him that we weren't doing them all down in Highland Avenue. I said, find some other ones. So he did find a few others. Right now, he's got some replacements that he's asking for over at the community center. His 3, possibly 4 dogwoods, which probably could be done there. 96 Witch Lane, he was suggesting 1 red maple. It's not Highland Avenue, it's Witch Lane. So
Which is
give him
very,
credit for that.
which is off Highland Avenue, by the way.
84 Highland Avenue, he had 1 native tree still to be determined. And then over at 86 Highland, he was looking to replace 2 storm damaged trees, looking for possibly 2 elms. So all total, it would be 8 trees is what it would look like. And he said he might have a couple more, but that's what he's given me so far.
Good for him.
When you follow up with them, Paul, just make sure that the damaged trees have been removed if they're on private property, because we can't go in there and plant if the trees are still standing.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, they have to take care of that, definitely. I'll make sure that he doesn't have one right under
Yeah,
another one.
just so that Rob follows up on that, so we're not scheduling a homestead and the trees are there.
I'm going to go out and stake and look at each one of them before I even place the order.
Okay.
Hey, Paul, I'm sorry, but back to East Norwalk. Did you talk with Matt Love, who's at 29 River Road?
I talked to him today, and we looked at some property line info, and I've got to go out and meet him in the field. So I've got the property line info. I just got to go out in the field and meet him.
Okay, because we want to put 2 trees there, to London Plain.
And
That
then
one's
we
in
need,
progress.
if we need homeowner agreements for Highland Avenue, make sure Rob knows that as well.
Yeah, I'll remind him again. And like you said, if you're concerned about the trees that have to be removed, I won't let him plant one directly under one that's fallen over.
Right.
He knows all about that.
He knows that, just remind him.
Yeah, he's an expert at that.
Okay, then Echo Lane.
It was the one tree that Alan Broadbent had asked me to look into. That looks like it'll be a possible planting also, so that would be another one.
Where is Echo Lane?
It's up, it's over in the northeastern section. So,
Cranberry area?
yeah.
That's where he lives. Okay, thanks.
And then Murray Street, I had a person who had sent a request in writing for a tree up at 133 Murray Street too. They were looking for 2, possibly 3 trees there.
Okay. And then replacements.
I mentioned to Gary again about the replacement that needs to be done down on Washington Street. I reminded him again this morning and said that's got to be one of the top priorities. So he said that he would take care of that. And that's a Redmond American linden.
Yes.
High canopy.
Higher canopy, even if we got to go to a larger caliper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last time we went with smaller caliper and they were very low canopy. Peter has a good
Right.
point.
And with the
Structure-
bollards around it to protect it, because that one seems to get hit.
We got
Yeah.
plenty of yellow bowards we can take from Wall Street here.
Mhm.
One of them's down, by the way.
Okay, then development for the fall 21-20 and spring tree planting location.
Before we move on to that, I have a question. So,
Go ahead.
Paul, give me your guesstimate on the number of trees we'll be planting this fall, and how does that compare with our targets for this year?
25.
Paul's counting.
About 31. We were hoping for 40, so we're a little right now. So if we can get some others on what Cindy had, would probably put us close to 35. If 3 or 4 of those come through, we'd be about 35, which is a pretty good planting season.
Does that include the contributions from Mr. Rowayton?
No, that includes, Rob, that includes his, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah. 20.
Well, that's a good question to lead into the next item. So for development of fall 2020 and spring 2021, just want to make everybody aware that we put a real push on at the time of the year when we're placing the order, but we should all be looking for locations or encouraging other people or neighborhood tree liaisons to work with their neighborhoods to look for locations for trees throughout the entire year. So that way we have a backlog of locations to plant trees, because we were successful in getting our budget increase from 50 to 65, and I'd like to see it keep going in that direction, but we got to make sure we got locations to put the trees in.
Yes, it's critical because we did get that. And in the near future, we're going to be starting to get the capital budget requests for next fiscal year again. So when we start to go through the hearings in January and February, I want to be able to tell them that we've spent over 50% of this budget. So we were looking to do about 40 trees in the fall now. So we really, if we could get another 10 trees or so, it really would be good.
Yeah, so even if we get a couple like late attendees that want trees and we have available funds, I'd like to try to push them in, even if it's a late order with Olmsted to get them planted. And after coming out of that storm from Isaias, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are minus trees now that wouldn't mind some trees being replanted, which I think is one of the things we tell the committee when they're working on the budget, is that we're anticipating the need for even more trees after the tropical storm.
You know,
Yeah, so if we can keep on pressing, because I want to, Andrew's orders are going to start to go in this week, and I'll start sending those to Gary. And then if we can get the information for Woodward, those would go in, and anything from Rob will go in. I'll meet with him later this week and make sure that the locations he got are viable locations for planting, and then go through and start. If we can get anything from you, Cindy, with those, it'd be good, and then try and get to 40. Now, right now we're about 31, 32.
Yeah, and I think what we're all experiencing is that when we're planting on city-owned property, it's really easy and straightforward. And when we're looking at private properties, between contacting them with the pandemic and getting the ownership agreements, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more effort. It's a lot more, individual opinions as far as their property. And it takes a lot more effort on our part. So we need to start even earlier in the year to try to get the private properties on board. And
there is a section of Highland Avenue which I don't think about much because it's Sherwood Forest, but Silvermine School to the south perimeter, it could probably take 3 trees really easily. It has trees across the front of its Horseshoe Drive, but to the south, that lawn is wide open, and there are several properties on Perry that really have no tree canopy on them. So maybe
Okay.
I mean, maybe
Visit the residents and bring me in the species and the locations, Peter, and we'll add them to the list.
I don't usually think about it, but that's a pretty open gap there. I gotta look inside the utility lines are on.
Okay.
Certainly the school is easy because it's city property.
Yeah, but that falls in Park and Rec.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
Right, so,
Unless it was something where there's a really long frontage like we did along Fox Run School, I'd rather avoid the schools a little bit and let Parks and Rec take care of that, unless it's something where we want to do a big project.
yeah, that's not what I mean, the big project they need is internal on the lot, but not there. There's
Okay, so anybody's got any of them, please get them to me, get me the locations, the species, and the agreements, and we'll place the orders, because now we're in the time where we're starting to do it.
Yeah, now's the time.
Do we want to consider the front of the police station, front of the firehouse on Silvermine? It's beyond, it'd probably be 4 or 5 trees that are not associated with the Dunbar School rehabilitation.
If there's a location, I can talk with the fire chief and see, so get me the layout of what you want to do, and then I'll talk with them.
I mean, that doesn't rely on the improvements on the field, so.
No, as long as it's not anywhere near the field, no, the station's a whole different property.
That would be worth the effort. Looks like.
Yeah, that's a good location, Peter.
And the elm tree there is dead. It needs to come out. The 2 lindens they've been stunted for a decade again. They haven't grown anything.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't think those lindens got installed properly.
Get me the list, Peter, then we'll go to it.
Yeah, I kept that on the tail of Dunbar, but maybe we don't need to wait. That's like 5 trees right there.
Yeah, for the fire department, no, it won't get damaged during construction. We can do it now.
Okay. Next, tree maintenance by section.
Okay, I sent everybody an email a little while ago to try and make it easier so people, if they wanted to see stuff, they could see it rather than trying to do all of the screenshots and sharing the screens, because sometimes that gets a little difficult, especially with an iPad, which is what I've got here right now. Gary sent me an email basically saying that the updated watering list was done. He also had a couple of pictures. The water gator bags keep getting chewed up by the lawnmowers. This is kind of one of the ones that he showed me that was full of holes. He's got another one that he's talking about where people are taking and using the equipment around and the actual collars around the trees for dumping garbage as well as dog waste in the bags around them. And then there's the third thing that he mentioned, that there's some trees that they planted that he's noticed that have sustained a pretty bad salt spray burn on the leaves from the storm that Rich was talking about, Isaiah. So there's some of the branches and leaves that you're seeing that on some of the leaves too. So he did send me the list of all of the watering locations that he's done, and he's been doing those up to date and has done watering as recently as 19, 20. It's got.
Yeah, I mean, Belden's had the bags full more recently.
He's done work at Fodor Farm again. He's done work at the area for the Oaks over both of those. He's done work again over in 97 Highland Avenue where they did some planting, and a whole group of other ones which I won't go into, but it is a group of those that he's been watering. So he's got a whole pile of them that he's been doing watering on, and he sent me the spreadsheets, and you guys have those. I forward them to you.
Well, I was looking through that spreadsheet and I noticed that like trees that were planted in 2019 got watered a few times, but then nothing in 2020. Does that mean that they're doing fine and they don't need anything, or did they fall off the list?
Well, from what he's told me, if they're not on the list, he's not doing them because they're doing okay, or other people like the homeowners have been doing them. So anything on the list, he's keeping for 2 years when we plant them. And then if he's not doing them, basically it's because there was no issue. His guys are checking them and did not need to do anything at the time, according to them. Now, if we have ones that have not been watered and we've got issues with them and they die, and we got this sheet here, and say, for example, the last time it was watered over at Wolf Pit School and Starlight Drive, they did a white oak. That last time that one was watered was August 14th of 19. That warranty is good until 21. So if it dies and they haven't watered them, that's proof right there that it's on them. But he's been telling me that anything that's not on here, they've been checking and did not need water.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
So, and that's basically it for that. I'm still trying to get them to go through the test results and a recommendation. I've asked them for the recommendation of what we should do over at Boder Farm with the soil amendments so that we can approve the expenditure, and then that will be spent out of the tree budget too, if there's anything we have to do on that. But he was still supposed to get back to me with that proposal.
Okay. That should probably happen pretty soon, because if we're going to replace those trees in the spring, the soil needs to be amended while the soil is workable. And then the tree search has got to start all over again if we're going to go down that road.
Okay. I'm going to press him again tomorrow, because I told him I usually follow up with him the day or two after the meeting. I'll press him again tomorrow for that proposal so that we can make a decision on what we're going to do and then go from there.
Yeah, that's
I'll talk with Erica and Rich, and if it's something where we feel that it's a reasonable proposal, we'll go ahead with it over there. If it's something that's not, then we'll hold off, but I'll consult with both of them before we spend the money to do anything over there. But I don't want to wait another whole month. If I can get the proposal from them next week, I don't want to wait a whole month to do it.
right.
If everybody's okay with that.
Andrew, what do you think?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I am too. If it's reasonable, let's just move forward with it.
Okay. I'll let Erica and Rich both know, and we'll talk about it when I get the proposal from them.
Okay, the next item is grant applications.
Eric is muted.
Erica, come back. You're the poobette.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the good news is I found probably about 5 grants that look really interesting. They're targeting environments, conservation, beautification, tree plantings, and education, which is right up our alley. The only negatives are that the 4 or 5 grants that I found are all due October or November. So I'm going to put together, I have a little chart with the grants, the amount, and the focus. And maybe we can pick 1 or 2 that we think makes the most sense for us, so that we're not spreading ourselves too thinly and trying to apply for too many things and maybe miss something when we can really focus on 1 or 2 and hopefully get it.
Could that go to the city, or does it have to go to a nonprofit entity like the NTA?
It depends on which one. Some of them would give it to the tree advisory committee. Some do stipulate that they want to see a 501c on the bill as well, in which case, you know, I'll put that in the chart as well, so that you know as well, you know.
I'm happy to do that. Great.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, what are the dollar amounts? Any idea?
Some of them say, you know, it's not listed, determined based on your project. Some of them, one of them I remember was 25,000. Another one was ranged from 10 to 15. So I'll make sure I have the dollar amount in there, or if they're not specified. And there was one grant that it's a rolling grant, so it didn't have a specific deadline, and I'll include that one as well.
Oh, great. Awesome. Okay, the next item, recruitment and neighborhood tree liaisons.
So I, was hoping to get more people involved like Lori, and not expecting Lori to step down at the same time. We were trying to, model something after her enthusiasm. But I think we all agree that maybe having some more boots on the ground would really help pinpoint some of these areas. It'll help, look at the amount of time that Cindy, for example, has spent out, knocking on doors and sending letters. And I think some of that can be mitigated if we had a few more liaisons. And so I just wanted to maybe over time kind of spitball as to how we can invite more people to represent their neighborhood and work with us in that capacity.
Well, we already have a new tree liaison for East Norwalk.
I know, I remember, and that's awesome.
What's her name, Paul? It's on the list that I gave you.
Nancy Lovas.
Yeah, yeah.
Lovas. She lives over at 13 4th Street.
Right.
One of the things that I sent out to everybody too in an email just before the meeting is a document that we had previously used to try and recruit liaisons. And it was something that, it was like a little 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that we were able to fold up and take different places, hand out. And we would have to modify one thing now is basically said, if you're interested, please contact Gabe McLeod. Obviously, we can revise that to whoever's name and number that we would like on there. But that could be something we could do a couple of things with. We could hand out variety of places, put out in stores, that kind of stuff. The other thing we could do too is we could send it down to Josh Morgan and see if we can get some kind of a press release done and sent out that way on the city's website and contacts and see if that helps spread the word a little bit too.
Well, that press release, Paul, if you also target the neighborhood groups, I mean.
Well, I'll bring it up at NTA on Thursday.
You'll see it was a little flyer that we sent,
right,
and it had the information in it, but you guys have it in your email. And what I can do is we have a map with the boundary lines. I'm going to see if I can get that scanned because right now it's in the chief's office on the wall. So I'm going to see if I can scan it and get the digital file.
Paul, if you can't scan it, just take a picture of it with your cell phone and send it to us. It's just as easy because I think it's too big to try to scan. And I think Peter has a really good point. Targeting some of these community groups is an awesome idea because they're already the choir that we want to preach to. Right. So that might be a great thing to do. The other thing is we definitely want to sexy up what we're sending out. What we have is really kind of plain, and I'd love to get some younger people involved also taking a little ownership in their neighborhood. And I think we could do that if we make the flyer a little sexier. So maybe we can kind of talk about that also.
And just so you know, previously we had 24 liaisons. There's a spreadsheet that we've got, and it's obviously outdated. I've got that too. So if we start updating it, feed me the new ones, and I'll add Nancy Lovas's name to it for down in the Marvin Beach area. But we've got that to keep track of it too. And then once we start to build it again, I can circulate that to everybody also.
And I think we heard Judd is joining as liaison.
Well, Lori can confirm that Judd's joining us, and then both he and Ms. Lofast should be invited to the meeting as panelists, I would think, if they're going to be liaisons. And I agree with what Erica said. It's a lot easier when we had all those neighborhood liaisons to solicit tree planting within their own neighborhood because they know the neighbors. And like Cindy spent a ton of work It's a lot harder when a stranger comes and approaches you and knocks on the door and pounding the pavement. Whereas if you have one neighborhood liaison working their own neighborhood, it's a lot easier buy-in, I think, because it's coming from your neighbor. I think it's a great opportunity. We should got to put more effort back into that and get them involved on our monthly meetings.
Okay.
I think the guy, Mike Masson over at Silvermine.
Yeah, actually, he was at a meeting. He was interested in it. I don't. do you
Yeah,
have
he's
contact for him?
so he would be a good one to help you, spread some of the work in Silvermine, Peter.
And I don't think he'd have a problem going over the border to Broad River.
No, not
Do you
unless,
have a contact for him, Paul? I don't know that we do.
I have to check on that.
I think he's
I don't
on
have it right with me.
Alvin Road or Alvin Drive.
I think he's on one of those streets. I'll just go blow the horn and yell, I guess.
Yeah, you just stop over. That works.
Erica, I think you were saying that your idea was to kind of not have to have the actual committee members go out and do all of this. They could be the focal point for 2 or 3 of the liaisons. Like over in the Silvermine area, you've got Nash, you've got the area for, yep. So you've got 2 or 3 liaisons that could then report to Peter, and it would make it easier.
Sure. And I know some people, like to go out into the neighborhood, and sometimes we see a location that we can target. But I think having the liaisons is not necessarily going to replace our eyes in neighborhoods, but really, kind of bolster our presence. And yes, assist that we are not, I don't feel that, we have to have a meeting and say, we each have to find X number of trees. It's a lot of pressure. And as you can see, I don't think I've ever come through with them.
You kind of live in Sherwood Forest as it is.
Yeah, for me, pounding the pavement is just, it's not going to happen.
Right. See, so that's a perfect case in point where people, where Peter has the expertise to know where something can go, but he might not have the time to find those locations. And someone can say, hey, Peter, I found these 2 or 3 places. And then Peter can just follow up with that liaison as opposed to pounding the pavement himself.
Okay, well, I'll take the picture of that map then and send that out, or get it scanned, whatever we've got to do. We'll get that and send that to everybody. You guys have the pamphlet, so you guys can start looking at that and make it a little more attractive than what it is currently. That one that we had there was probably about 8 or 9 years old at least.
Images of us planting might be helpful, Erica, just as a thought. Sprucing it up is saying that we're an active group. So a few images of stuff getting accomplished.
We got some good pictures of you planting over at Rudner Court. We can put that on it.
I don't know about that one.
You're famous.
No, those pictures are great, actually. I agree.
Fantastic. I thought those pictures were great.
Well, one of them got a little mileage from me, but Andrew, you got credit for it.
Those look good. All right. I think that's all good effort. And I think that makes our life a lot easier, and it gets a lot more trees in the ground with a lot less effort. Next update on Norwalk Tree Alliance activities, Andrew?
Yeah, I'll move through this fairly quickly. Third taxing district, we finished that program. It was difficult this year because of the pandemic. It was also difficult because we had, I think, 22, 23 lottery contestants, and we usually pick the first top 12. I went through the whole list because most of them had unsuitable locations. Their properties were not conducive. There wasn't enough space to plant trees. So in the end, we have a grant from last year for 12 trees. We can only provide spaces for 8 trees. So with my agreement with third taxing district, we're going to defer the other 4 till next spring, when we've already got a grant for next spring. So we'll have to plant 16 trees. Anyway, so that's the story behind that. Rich, I met with Emildo at Corville's, and I was delighted with the trees that were available. We have 3 oaks and 5 lindens.
Perfect.
Yeah, so they're all been ready to tag, and I have to work on scheduling Keith to plant them and so on.
Keep him in the loop that you're only doing 8 this year, but 16 next year, so he holds those prices, please.
Okay, I have to negotiate the price for this year. Hopefully it'll be prorated based on what we've spent last year.
I already negotiated it with him.
Okay, so I'll keep you part of the loop on the invoicing and so on, okay? But you know the rationale. Okay.
That's fine.
Prorated. And I mentioned it to Neil, though, and he's not very interested in the finances, but I'm sure Richie Corville will be. Board of Directors, right now we're in a recruitment and nominations phase. We need to post those nominations 2 weeks prior to our annual meeting, which is at the end of October. So that's going on. We have a committee. We're doing a lot of committees this year. We're also revising the bylaws, which is really interesting. I'm on that committee with Anna Thurston and Alan Broadbent. Both Alan and Anna see great utility in revising them, and makes some sense to me since, you know, we can't have real meetings, and so we're putting in different things in the bylaws. There's a lot of rules in it, as you might gather, Rich, from Anna's influence. We're going to discuss it on Thursday when we're going to present it to the full board. Also, we're relaunching the NTA website, and it's terrific. It's really is terrific. And Deborah Berneman's daughter, Emily, designed it, and she's a pro.
You did a great job with it. It really looks good.
And we ought to think, and so that's all I got to say. When it officially launches and so on, I'll send you links to it. But I'm very pleased with it.
And I put the link. I put the link in it right down in the actual agenda item there too.
I see that.
If anybody wants to take a look, they can just take a look.
I think we're taking off the article, so it's only going to be norwalktreealliance.com. We sort of wrestled that back. We never wanted to put the Norwalk Tree Alliance, but the former president wouldn't give up the URL, but he hasn't continued. It's late fallow, so we can use it now. It's just a detail. And at some point, we should think that the Tree Advisory Committee of being a little more active in terms of outreaching. We've talked about inviting people to be tree liaisons. If we had some sort of social media presence, even a Facebook thing, it might be helpful.
And I can talk with Josh Morgan about that to see if he's got any ideas on what we could do as the city entity. Because I know they don't usually want to do them separate from the city website, but let me talk with him and see if there's any ideas of what we can do for this.
Can you wrestle a bit of budget? Could you wrestle a bit of budget and we could get Emily to do it? She did all our work on a pro bono basis.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work being the city. I'd have to talk with them about that. I'm not sure how that would go, because a lot of times if you're doing work and you have to pay somebody after a certain amount of money, you have to have an RFQ and go out for all of that, and it's got to go through the purchase.
Why don't you let me? I'm not talking about a lot of money.
You still have to go through the purchasing department.
I understand. So I'm just throwing it out, and if you could look into it, I think that would be helpful, because none of us are going to get it done.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it for the NTA. Again, we have our Thursday meeting this week, and we're going to try to do it as a real meeting outside in the pavilion. That's the shell that we have up
Wood
there.
covered shelter.
Excuse
Yeah,
me?
out at Photo Farm.
At Photo Farm. And of course, our meetings are earlier, so it'll be still daylight. But we're also looking into having a Zoom capacity in addition to having a real life meeting. So I'll let you know how that turns out. That's it from NTA.
Yeah. And
Thank you,
they
Andy.
planned on trying, if they were gonna do it in the pavilion, obviously they were gonna try and do it so that they obeyed all of the social distancing guidelines and all of that stuff too. So we're trying to coordinate it to get everything to come together.
Yeah, we're already got the approval or acquiescence of Parks and Recreation, or Recreation and Parks.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Andrew.
small new item.
We're past our hour limit by quite a bit, but if there's any other items on other business,
Let me just throw it out there, no resolve required. I got a call this week from a landscape architect who, during a presentation of planning zoning, was requested to have the project have larger trees. I think our list, Paul, is 3 to 3.5 primarily. They requested, the request came in, they wanted to go 3.5 to 4 because the statement was these trees should, recover faster or be more impacting faster, which we know is incorrect. In terms of smaller trees tend to catch up quickly.
Who's asking that?
Planning and zoning, and this is, the landscape architect said, basically, this is not the first time this has happened. The point I'm making is P&Z is again out of sync with the tree advisory committee recommendations. Not that I mind 4-inch caliber trees, but there just continues to be a disjunct between things we're trying to achieve and the things they're approving. And I don't have an answer for how to solve it. I don't know how to fix it. We've presented to P&Z once about the tree meatballing. I don't know whether there's a continued communication. Just give it some thought because we could be more effective. If we have a little bit of team tag with the people approving plans.
I have
repairs going in.
I have a question. I direct this to Paul and also to Rich. Do we have any responsibility in terms of doing selective pruning on some of our city street trees? And I'm particularly thinking of those trees that have high visibility, what Peter, I think, has referred to as gateway locations. For example, we put in, I think maybe 6 Princeton or American elms in front of the synagogue on East Avenue. And one of them, major limb and of course they're not full-grown trees yet, was damaged, came down during the last storm. So I just wonder, Rich, is that something we do, or how does that get done?
we definitely, we do maintenance of trees on the city right away. If those were installed on private property at the synagogue, which I think they were.
They were.
We put them in for free and they
Maintain.
free tree agreement, they agree to maintain them. So it gets a little sticky that we can't go onto private property to perform contract work. They own the tree.
Okay.
We applied it, delivered it, installed it at no cost.
Right.
We're required to maintain it. So in a case like that, when the tree develops a broken branch,
Yeah.
we should reach out to them and say, hey, we noticed one of the trees had a broken branch that we planted for you. Could your landscaper or tree arborist repair it? It's
Okay. On that note, Paul, Rob was the coordinator on that. He
Yes.
contacted and worked. When you're talking to Rob this week about
Yep.
Highland, could you mention that opportunity and ask him if, one, he'd be willing to contact the synagogue, whoever he worked with, and if not, would he provide the name so one of us can contact the synagogue directly?
Yeah. I will. I'll talk with him. And to Rich's point, yeah, I wouldn't think that that's something the city be responsible for on private property, but the ones that we put in the city right of way, like down on Washington Street over the years when we used to trim the Bradford pears and prune them, we've done projects where we've done them. So
Even though we don't have a responsibility, we have an interest.
No,
And,
exactly.
Yeah, we definitely have an interest.
We have an
without a
interest,
doubt.
yeah.
and I think those American elms can be really magnificent statuesque trees if they're pruned appropriately during their youth. And if you look at them, I would like an arborist to look at all of them, because you know how elms grow.
Yeah, and if they don't have anyone to take care of the trees on their own property, they can contact the city, and the city has a list of qualified arborists on their record, correct, Paul?
Yeah, we've got to give at least 3 names. We can't just give one, but we give out at least 3. And sometimes with that stuff, I've got a list of at least 5 that I've given out.
Is Hutchinson on the list?
I've given out a
I don't
whole
know. Can't take them off.
I'm pretty sure Lado isn't.
Care of Trees, Hutchinson, Olmsted, Save-A-Tree,
Bartlett.
Bartlett. So there's 5 of them right there that we give out.
Davy?
So, but yeah, so I'll talk with Rob about that and take care of that part of it. But the other part of your question is, yes, the city's done the ones that we are responsible for.
I got that on Washington.
So uplanding our ginkgos needs to be on the winter list here, because this is a great time to upland them once they drop leaf.
Yeah, those are ready for another uplift.
They're definitely ready, and it Wall Street's moving along here, and
Wall
that's
Street's cranking along. I know I proved
that's never good. But also ask yourself the question in front of, is it Avalon or over, where am I?
Belden?
Not Avalon, the other end. Waypoint. Are those maple trees, which are very heavily canopied, do they need to be thinned out? They're street trees, and whose responsibility? It's the same thing where Avalon, I'm afraid that they're going to butcher them like the Avalon did, because they're getting heavy. They're getting a heavy canopy on them. So perhaps a discussion in next meeting, but take a look at those at Waypoint. And don't even look at the ones from the mall. They should never have gone in there. Poor quality.
Well, those are 2 smaller trees right there.
The branching is poor to be a street tree. I'm very surprised.
They're low canopied and they should have been bigger.
And many of them have crooked multiple stems.
Yeah. So the planning and zoning looks at things. I mean, we went through the same thing on Washington, where we went with too small a tree and too low a canopy, and now so a larger tree, if they're mandating it, planning and zoning, maybe they're looking for a higher canopy right from the get-go.
That's not what they said. They said they want the tree to recover faster. So if I'm saying they're just out of sync with what they're asking for. I don't. It's not that it's.
I'd be curious to say who was saying that on the zoning staff and where that was coming from.
Yeah, it might be a misinterpretation from.
No, it's not. It's not. The landscape director I'm talking is pretty clear.
And I'd also be curious to know if it's coming from staff or commissions too.
I mean, I can dig more into it, but again, it's the point that we're not necessarily in sync. That's all.
Maybe we should be a liaison on the planning and zoning.
Yeah, we should.
You asked how we can have a better linkage, and that's one way of doing it.
Well, it's
having a
we're way over time, but the new developments over on Route 7. New streets going in, those orange apartment buildings, 700 apartments. You've got Bradford pears on the center median. Median's wide enough to hold shade trees. So I'm just saying, some of the approvals, they're not suggesting things that might be better suited to cover the streets.
Right.
So there's always missed opportunities. Why are Bradford pears in there at all if they're not on our list?
Yeah. Anyway, I gotta go, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Over all the years, I've enjoyed really being part of the committee. I'll stay part of the committee. But I'm really super looking forward to Erica taking over the reins of the committee. I know she's going to do wonders that I wasn't able to achieve. But I've enjoyed working with this group tremendously over the years, and was really like haphazard when we started out. We didn't even really know where we were going. We weren't planting trees at the beginning. We just knew we wanted to be a tree hugger committee. Planting trees on private property. We didn't have a tree planting budget. So I look back at like, you know, what we've accomplished. We weren't Tree City USA when we started. There's tons and tons of stuff that we have accomplished. And just hearing the dialogue tonight and seeing like, you know, how much more room for advancement there is with the city and this committee, it just really makes you feel great. And I've always said it's the best committee in the town and the best people to work with, and I'll always say that forever.
Well, thank you, Rich. And I guess this makes you the big booba emeritus.
The Grand Poobah Emeritus. All right, guys.
Erica,
right,
you'll be getting some more phone calls from me for agenda stuff now.
Absolutely not a problem. And Rich, thank you so much for everything. You've left some
Thank you, Rich.
ginormous shoes to fill, and I hope to just, you know, add even a fraction of what you've added over almost 2 decades. So thank you.
Don't do it as long as I did, Eric.
I'll just say one thing too. It's been great working with Rich. Every time we've had to do something, I mean, we've talked a lot with the different projects going on and the agendas, items, and different things. It's been great working with Rich as the chairman, and it'll be great working with Erica also. So thank you, Rich, for all of your hard work, and I know you put in a ton of time with it too. So thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Rich.
Great evening. Thank you very much.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Anthony? Anthony? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for taking care. Are we still recording or are we done?
We're done.
Okay. Thank you for taking care of that too. That particular item that I'd asked you to take care of.